Hi guys, as we start this video about this car, which is a very unique rear-wheel drive, two-door, newer generation Civic, I have some thoughts. This is a car that very few drift cars nowadays have the ability to expand the audience of available people, because if you build another 240SX or something like that to do Formula D, you are just talking to the same people that are already fans. And if you build a Mustang, you're talking to the same people that are already fans, and you're giving them another car. You're just reinforcing to the audience that already watches drifting and is a part of it and knows about it and stuff. But if you bring an entire new chassis to the game that's never been there, there are so many people with Civics. And these people would probably love to watch drifting, but they can't get into it because they're not a Mustang fan, they're not a 240SX fan, they just don't have anyone to cheer for. So by someone building an entirely new type of drift car, which is unique, that is half the entire car culture grew up with Civics at some point in their lives and were a huge fan of them. Even my cameraman, Cy. I've never been a Civic guy. I got into things a little bit differently, but I know I'm actually probably in the minority of people that haven't ever owned a Civic or anything like that. You bring in an entire generation of people that can now be a fan of drifting and feel it like they're a part of it, to feel excited because they have a car to root for, to feel like they have some like horse in the game, or that's not the right thing. They have some like, they have some connection and attachment to it. It just gives them something to cheer for. So I think this is very, like chassis like this are very important for drifting, whether it be the Team Orange, Evos and STIs, which brought in an entire new range of drivers, whether it be Von Ginn Jr. that brought in the American car, like enthusiasts with Mustangs. Before Von Ginn Jr. brought in all of the Mustang fans, you lost the entire range of muscle car fans and American fans because they didn't have anyone to connect with and drifting. And then after he came in with that Mustang, it took a year or two for people to kind of warm up to it, but suddenly you brought in an audience that was more than 2 to 3 times or 4 times larger. And not only that, you brought in a huge influx of new money. Honda is a huge company, and if they want to get into drifting in a serious way, this gives them an outlet to do so. Same thing with Ford. When Ford came in with money, they were bigger than everyone else. When Scion and Toyota came in, they were bigger than almost everyone else. And it was a small, like, chump change thing for them to throw into drifting, support Formula D, support all kinds of different, avenues for drifting. This is just something that could not work out, could work out super well. It depends, because you never know how fickle a large company with a huge marketing department with Honda is. They might not be interested in drifting because it just doesn't do something. But we've seen that Scion and Toyota have actually put huge amount of money into drifting, and they did it with the front-wheel drive chassis as well, or all-wheel drive, or whatever the Scion TC stuff was. So anyways, let's get into this interview. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for Chris for showing us this rad car. Let's get started. Hello YouTube, I am bringing you something completely crazy. I'm not sure the title of this video. It could be old Formula D cars and what are they doing now? It could be new Formula D cars that never got started quite, but this is a really cool car. It's a Civic Coupe, and I don't know a lot about it, but it's been converted to rear-wheel drive, and I think it's the first Civic in Formula D. There was a Civic down, like, what was that, EG hatch or EB? I don't know anything about Civic, so EF's hatch? That was the Falcon car back in the day. Are you ready? Say your name?
Chris Generett.
All right, Chris Generett. He is a Formula D guy. He ran an S2000 back in the day. It had crazy horsepower. He's a Honda guy through and through, it looks like. I'll let him fill me in on all of his history and stuff, but to preface this, we were gonna do this interview like a couple hours ago, and he's like, I'm gonna go drive the car first. And I'm like, no, don't go drive the car, because if anything goes wrong, you're not gonna wanna do anything. So he's having some troubles, and I'm just interrupting him right in the middle of it. So if he seems flustered or anything, he looks like he's a really good sport. But it's a brand new car, and cars require testing, and that's exactly what he's doing now. So we're gonna let him talk all about it. Can you tell us about the car, why you're testing,
For sure.
when you built this car? It's obviously a Formula D car. It's obviously crazy because it's a Civic, and pretend our audience doesn't know anything about it, and just like, tell us everything.
Sure, yeah, so the whole thing started, thanks again for having us here. This event is amazing. The whole thing started with the GRC Rally Civics, and I saw them in person for the first time here. We're in one of the Red Bull GRC races when they came, and I was kind of on that team the same team with a previous car, so I got to kind of behind the scenes look at those vehicles, and they were super amazing. And seeing them in person sliding around on dirt, I was like, that'd look way sicker sliding around on asphalt. That being said, this is what we have. We took a K24 engine that we've been running in our Honda S2000 for many years, and very reliable engine, Honda of course, and then we turned the motor 90 degrees and gave it a rear end. So it's a Formula D spec, it's got all the bits, it's got a dog box, it's got a quick change, it's got big axles, big tires, and about 1,000 horsepower. So.
I have a bunch of questions, so many questions. A, this isn't a question, but there is more room in this engine bay than in a normal car.
It looks like it needs a V10.
Yes, this is insane how much room this car has in it. B, there's tons of cool parts, like I'm looking at your knuckles right now. I'm curious how you did all that stuff. Also, why would you choose a Civic platform at all? Are you a Civic specific guy? Because it's not a platform that anyone else chooses.
For sure.
And I just did a video recently talking about with Travis Reeder, he chooses the drivetrain package he wants and then chooses the suspension on what car he wants, and then the chassis just comes with the suspension.
For sure, yeah.
So why would you choose this car? Because very few people have chosen it, literally zero.
Yep.
What's the purpose of all that? So kind of just chat about that stuff and keep going. I'm just gonna keep loading you with questions.
It's totally fine.
Go.
So the whole idea was I'm a Honda guy, and I wanted to get on board with Honda as far as being a factory driver or working with them as some kind of marketing platform. And I reached out to Honda Performance Development and HPD, and they build all the Indy motors. They do a lot of trophy truck stuff, lots of really cool R&D stuff over in California. And I had a meeting with them, and I told them I wanted to build a 2020 Civic with a Honda-powered package, and I'll 100% one-off everything and unveil it at SEMA. So SEMA 2019, we unveiled this vehicle. Nobody knew about it, except for me and Honda, and it was a huge surprise because the Supra came out that SEMA, so it was like, oh, Supra, what's that? And it was just a really cool project for me because I've always been a Honda guy. I've had like 6 Civics, always front-wheel drive, but going to the S2000 was like kind of like true to form for me, and I decided, well, I got to build something new, so why not the new Civic? So that's why we got this.
That suspension. Tell us about the angle kit and everything, the knuckles. No, I'm just going to keep tossing questions at you as I go.
The uprights are designed by RTS, Race Tech Services. They are actually an E46 geometry, and then we use a few other parts to work with that system. We get about 74 degrees steering angle parallel. It has a 265/35 tire on the front, which is like most people run on the rear. Obviously, we have massive wide body on the front to make it work with it. Everything is really packaged in an area on the car that's easily accessible and easily to work on. I mean, we can do a motor in probably like 20 minutes. The engine is all suspended between the two frame horns, and it's floating between 2 billet mounts. So there's no you can drop a subframe and not have to drop a motor. Everything on this car has been from like 15 years of me working in Formula Drift as a crew chief and a builder, and I just wanted to build something for myself that was unique and really spoke words about who I am. So that's why we built it.
Did you already tell me specifically why you picked this chassis?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going through things, I'm like, okay, did we cover that?
Red Bull GRC cars.
Right, but I mean, for the suspension, was an E46 like a better choice and you could put a K-Series drivetrain in that?
So the reason we did the E46 stuff is actually because it already had the same style McPherson front as a BMW. I know the BMW stuff is readily available, and there's a lot of development that's gone into drifting in BMW. So that being said, looking at the car, not of what it is, but what it could be on paper, the wheelbase and the swing armor, suspension, all the pickup points, and it's very similar to like an E46 BMW. So I'm kind of just took it as that and went, okay, let's transplant that into this, and then here we go.
Okay.
So,
and when I drove in Nopi and D1 and like that stuff back in the day, there was a Honda Element, and I chatted a lot with the Honda guys. They were I think they were test drivers or maybe engineers.
HPD helped with that one too, yeah.
Yeah, they went back and they were like, we want to do something with Honda. They're like, we want S2000s, and the marketing department came back and they were like, the only thing that we're willing to promote to that age demographic and everything else is the Honda Element. It's our youth vehicle, it's this and that. take it or leave it. They put an Acura TL turbo.
Twin turbo, yeah.
Yeah, twin turbo motor inside that with a dog box and whatever, and it was real wacky and stuff, but
it worked. It wasn't super exciting.
Saying it worked is a little bit strong. It always looked like it was gonna roll over or whatever.
Yeah, a little top heavy.
How did you convince them to do this platform? Was it off of like youth marketing and stuff? Because this is never gonna be a car that's gonna be a drift car. It's not a performance car in the same way. It doesn't translate. Maybe if they were doing, are they doing an S2000 again?
So I know that there are talks of another smaller wheelbase, rear engine, possibly turbo K-Series car. I don't know for exact what's gonna happen because I'll never tell anybody. But I do know at the time when we were talking about this car is, you know, Type R is the pinnacle, right? That's the best you can get when it comes to the Honda brand. And now, how do you hit the market where everybody is sub $50,000? And I was like, well, the SI is still an attainable car for most. And let's just have some fun with it and do something different. Because everybody's racing a four-door or a hatchback, you know, wagon thing. And I was like, I like the coupe better. I think the Type R should have been a coupe personally, but, you know, powers of be decides something else.
Sorry, the BMW is being so loud. We're at a track and we're doing all these interviews during this. Did they fight you on this drivetrain?
Not one bit.
No?
No.
And why didn't you choose like, oh, I heard that slam and I was like, oh God.
That's a door.
I always think I'm gonna get like run over in the pits or something with my back turned. Do they have a new engine package that is a better idea? Because these cars actually came with turbo variants and everything that you could do something with. I know you probably picked this platform because it has tons of parts and development and everything else. Yeah. Is the new engine any good? Would you like to use the new engine? Is the new engine cool? It's like looking at the new B58 stuff and the turbo Supra stuff, but Daigo runs the JZ platform in it, and we know because he has all the parts already, but I mean,
yet we have
you want to promote the new stuff.
Right, so the one thing I didn't have to fight them on it because I already had an engine package that would work. And they didn't have any development on the new motor, the power and torque levels that I needed. And they knew it wasn't proven, so they weren't gonna even try for that. Okay. Being that, you know, we've used this and this is a very good engine, and Honda knows it's a very good engine, they had no problem with it. But yeah, the big thing for me was I don't want to put something in and spend a bunch of time developing it, an engine package that has never ran before. This is actually the same engine I ran in my S2000 from 2014.
Oh, the exact same engine?
Exact same engine. This, we just put a new valve cover and cleaned it up and threw it in this thing. This literally has years of abuse on it. So we do have a new engine program we're working on, but I just threw this in to get it out here, so.
What's it like building a Formula D car and not having everything dialed in sponsorship-wise? You know, the 2020 was a very odd year anyways because of everything. All the uncertainty. Do you just build the car and like, kind of like the Field of Dreams, like build it and they will come, sponsors will come? Or did you build this with sponsor money and have a direct plan and knew exactly what you're doing? Or is it just like, man, I'm just gonna build this and hope everything works out? Like, what is it like? Because everybody wants to know.
Yeah, that's a really hard one. For this particular deal, without getting too detailed, I told Honda I was going to build this, give me some, you know, support on the chassis, some parts, and then we'll see what we come up with. And then we start talking, you know, about next year what we're going to do with it. Of course, right then and there is when COVID hit, and then kind of just sat for 6 months, and then we waited until everybody got back to work. So, unfortunately, I pretty much ponied up all the money for this car. The end goal was I was going to get, you know, money back for doing events and, you know, demos and whatnot, and we were planning on doing Grid Life and a couple other events, Hyperfest, and but yeah, without the budget there is no racing. So I built the car and I was like, you know what, this is cool, I need to take a minute, step back and just kind of do something else for a minute. But yeah, sponsorship is a huge part of racing, as you know. One thing I would like to, one thing it really is hard to swallow is that, you know, when economics change the world, all of a sudden you can't hold, you know, anybody accountable for it. It's something that's like out of your hands. So it's like, it's not an ill-willed thing, but it does suck. But you know what? We'll still find other sponsors. We'll find somebody else to do something with. So, but yeah, as of right now, this is just my car and my program, and just out here to have some fun.
So this is your second FD-like car.
Third, technically.
Third. What was the first one?
S14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about the Hondas and stuff mostly. Was this, because this seems like a much more sponsorable thing, seems like you went about it with more of a mind for like a new chassis that they're doing. You probably built this specifically because it's a modern chassis that's still in production. Are they still in production?
not anymore. The Civic Si Coupe went out of production at the end of 2020.
Okay, but when you were building it, it was.
It was a current car,
and
yeah.
things just go very rapidly nowadays. Oh yeah, so the S2000, was the S2000 more sponsorable, and did you have better luck with sponsors and funding your season and stuff than this?
Yeah, because
you know what I mean? Like, was it working backwards at the moment
Sure.
because of the timing and stuff? And how does that feel when you're building a car? Because it makes it incredibly difficult to plan for.
Yeah, and like most FD drivers, unless you've had something in the works for the last year or 6 to 8 months, you're kind of in a crapshoot with a new vehicle. You want to be super come out of the box with something really marketable. So having like things lined up for like media out of the box, guaranteed coverage on certain things to sell to the sponsors. That was one thing that was a lot easier to do a few years back. With this, I took 2 years off from professional drifting, so I was just coming out of nowhere again with this vehicle, just to kind of see what I could do. And this whole thing was just to be a marketing machine, just to go have fun. I was not going to throw it in FD its first year. I was not planning on doing any competitions with its first year. So that being said, there is so much that goes into those little nuances, but it's so freaking hard to keep it all dialed in.
Sorry about that, I'll just end their fun. So they're on the skid pad, and I'm like, I am sick of this. I'm like, just kick them off. Okay, that way we can just keep talking nicely without interruptions messing up our thing. Hopefully the audio is really good and stuff, but it's hard to even concentrate like that. So you've got this platform. Did you do this to be more competitive? Is this a more competitive chassis than the S2000, do you think? Is it more competitive than your S14? Is it like, still keep elaborating on that. Sure.
Yeah, no, the S14 obviously drove itself. It was, one of those cars that everybody can jump in and learn drifting, and it's still a great chassis today. The S2000 took a lot to handle. It was very high horsepower, very short wheelbase. I had talks with, Mad Mike when he was over here with his MX-5, and his same issues he was having was the same ones I was having with the short wheelbase car, but it was a rocket ship when you were on, and when the car was on, it was stupid. But I wanted something that was easier to drive. It was going to be once again more marketable, something different. But I didn't go too far out in the outfield to find something. I literally looked at it, like I said before, what it could be, what it is close to, so I don't have to start from zero, working backwards from like an E46 or E36 chassis, kind of using that mindset of setting the car up. That way today, being the first time I've ever driven the car, it actually did pretty good. I was surprised. I didn't get a lot of laps in it today, but I'm very happy with what we got so far.
Okay, so now we just ran right into you testing the car today. How do you test a car? What do you decide you're looking for? Is it just go out and just see if it goes on the bank and drives? Is there any testing equipment? Is there any telemetry you're doing? Is there any like engineer you bring with you that's paying attention to things? Are you measuring anything? Or is it just like YOLO and you just throw it up on the bank and go for it kind of thing? What is testing for a Formula D car in early stages like this? Because this is your first time driving the car, and you would think after so many years of development and all this stuff, because I always hear about people like, oh, I'm dialing in grip, I'm doing this, I'm developing the car, I'm developing my program, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But is it just as simple as coming out here and hucking the car and just seeing how it drifts?
Well, yeah, because you got to start somewhere, right? If you have a baseline on a brand new vehicle, I mean, if you have a 240, yes, you know where it should be. But if you're coming out here in a completely bespoke vehicle, it's going to be, I don't even know where to start. Let's just put it on the ground, and we know it got off the dyno this afternoon. We know the engine package is working. We know all that's working. I've driven it around, the brakes work. Okay, next is donuts and hucking it sideways. So a couple times out here in the skid pad, just, a couple manjis in first and second, and then donuts. And I was like, all right, that feels pretty good. Let's take it on another track and see if we can up a gear or something. And just kind of looking at the data on the dash, because I have everything on my dash, and because I know this engine package works and it's been tried and true, it's more just feeling the chassis at this point. But yeah, sometimes I will, if this was an actual Formula Drift car where I was actually going to be competing in this in the next couple weeks, I would be out here with a team of guys, and I'd be out here, closed track, no people, just kind of dialing in bit by bit and thinking about every nuance of the vehicle and what I want it to do and how I want it to end up. That being said, today it was more just about, let's just get out and have some fun. This is a fun event. Let's just bring it out and have the first event is supposed to be a fun event.
Do you want to tell us how it went with the first rear-wheel drive Civic Formula D car? This is the first rear-wheel drive Formula D car, right?
Yes.
Or Civic, whatever.
Civic, first rear-wheel drive Civic, yes, is built to FD spec, yes. Actually, I'm very surprised, and I'm very surprised in a way that I knew what it would be because I've driven BMWs and stuff, and this is what it's similar to, but it is much nimbler. It's very responsive. It's a blast, honestly. It's got everything you would need in a pro car. I just want to put more tires on it and go.
Okay. So you're happy with it?
Yeah, I'm very happy with it for this first time.
How close is it to being Formula D ready?
A couple weeks if I really wanted to. I'd have to change a few things, but I mean, nothing that couldn't be dealt with, you know.
Are you going to run in Formula D 2021?
That not going to happen this year. No budget for that this year. I'm going to try to make it out to a few events this year just for fun, up and down the West Coast, maybe most likely. But that being said, I do want to get back into Formula Drift, but I'm not sure when that'll happen. I just got to get the car back and make sure it's dialed in, make sure I'm happy with it, and then once I'm comfortable in the car, it's easier for me to sell the package. So
I'm looking around at the car. Would you be in Pro 1 with this car or Pro Spec?
I haven't even paid attention, honestly, to the new rule book, to be completely honest, since last year, since we kind of just put the car away for the last year, because after SEMA 2019, I was just like, I don't even want to drive it now. I just had too much time and money wrapped up into it. I just wanted to like sit back and just go, let's just do life for a minute. So luckily I've had some good support in the back end telling me to get out there and do it and have some fun, other drivers too. And I was like, you know what, screw it, let's just go out and have some fun. So, but I do want to actually get it to the point where it is FD competitive. And I know it could be. I just...
Pro 1 or Pro Spec?
Pro 1.
Okay.
And I just need to get out there and start playing with it some more and put some more time into it, more seat time and more tires, and just get the feel for it. And then once I'm comfortable with the vehicle, I can sell the package.
And this chassis is not legal for Formula D until you request it? Do you have to request it, or how does that work? Because they do have a rule book.
Right. Yeah, I don't know the current rule on that right now, but I do know when we were talking with Kevin Wells at Formula Drift that he was saying that there's a lot of leeway that we could make work for the chassis, because the things we had to do to make the chassis work were not competitive advantages. They were just things to make it physically work. And they said that, we could definitely, sign off on that, just because, there's nothing you're doing that's making it better. It's just making it work physically. You're already on a, starting from the lowest point possible with development, because you're starting from something from scratch, basically.
Yeah.
So, that being said, unless I started winning overnight every event I went to, then that's the only time I'd have a target on my back.
Okay. Could you show us, as we finish up this interview, could you show us around all the details?
Yeah.
Like, these look like some awesome CNC'd pieces that are offset and everything. Like, there's so much cool stuff going on here. Like, these awesome clamps I saw they're movable and stuff. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but I am.
100%.
I don't know, so much cool stuff.
For sure.
What is all this down here?
So we have the engine suspended by billet motor mounts built by Olson Custom Works, who's also my business partner. He designed all the billet pieces on this car, including the rear suspension pieces, the upper top hats, like you were talking about a second ago. They're all machined from 70-75 aluminum. The uprights, like I said, are from RTS, Race Tech Services. Motors, pretty much, your standard K24, everything you can buy off the shelf. Vibrant supplied us with all the fabrication parts, including the HD boost clamps, intercooler, and all the stuff to make the header we made. What else? We got Radium supplied us with all the fuel system pieces, AEM with all the sensors and the data logging and the dash and any of the actual electronic goods, including the fuel pumps. And then Ryan Basari wired the whole thing with custom loom. So. Then the rear end is a quick changer end, standard FD stuff, with a helical differential. Everybody does spools, but I wanted to try something different with this car. As you know, it's hard to push a spooled car, but it's also a little more forgiving with this one. It seems to lock up faster when you want it, and when you're off the throttle, it seems to want to come back faster. So just wanted to try something different. FD spec cage, custom tunnel throughout the car to make it rear-wheel drive, and then we didn't really do too much to the rear end, except for put a diff in it and chop it in half. So it does have GTR hubs in it because they made an off-the-shelf piece for us, or they had an off-the-shelf piece that would work. And then yeah, pretty much a lot of little bits we just kind of looked at as parts, not necessarily what vehicle they're for, but what would fit the bill. Working with DC Suspension, they come up with a suspension design for us that had 10 inches of travel in the rear and 9 inches in the front. And we haven't used all of it, but it's there if we wanted to. So basically overbuilt everything to where the point is if we wanted to become competitive with it, it's designed in. So.
If you don't run this car in Formula D, what will you do with it?
Well, for now, I'm just going to try and have fun with it, and then if I don't have fun with it, then I don't know.
Like, is it a promotional piece for a business? Is it, what's the end game? Because either it's a promotional piece for a business, or you're burning a bunch of just like fun cash to do it as a hobby, or you're kind of, you know, doing it as a sponsorship platform to promote a sponsor. What do you think this car is going to be in 2022, 2023? I
mean, I hope that I can come up with something that will work for a brand that would actually make sense. You know, I'd love to work with another brand and build some marketing portfolios with it, and come up with something that actually would be interesting to see, you know, whether it's content creation or coming out to lifestyle events, or, you know, just doing demos across the country. I would love to get this car to, you know, pay its way at some point. It is something I, you know, put everything I had into, so where am I going with that? But basically what I'm coming up with is I just got to get this car out here and make sure I love it. That way I can sell it to somebody. That being said, yes, I do want to see it branded, you know, and doing something that's marketable and fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add before we're done?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super interesting build, very different. Not many people go this far off the beaten path. As you do, there's so many development hurdles and everything, so kudos to all the crazy work you must have done to make this work. So much custom fabrication stuff. I'm sure they don't make a lot of these pieces to like put this engine in the car or develop everything. You're developing everything along the way, which gives you so many more pieces on top of, like, if you're doing an S chassis, you just buy Wise Fab front and rear. You just buy the body kit you want. You buy the wide body you want. You can buy carbon roofs for them now. You buy the seat rails. I don't even know if these seat rails probably are
custom.
Yeah, everything has got to be custom.
Yeah.
You can even buy cages now for them that are probably FD legal, that are laser cut and done everything and etched, and you just like put the thing in and just weld it. Like, building one of those is, well, first of all, there's so little of them left. It's probably easier to pick up these chassis cheap now, which is totally ironic. But okay, thank you so much.
Cool.
All right.
That's good.
Boom.
This video is brought to you by BC Racing Coilovers, ECU Master USA, Y-Plate Imports, Torco Racing Oils and Fuels, and Drift HQ. Without these guys, we would not have Drift Week 3, so thank you so very much for supporting this content. Let's get started.